Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Thursday, July 2nd. Currently, we are expecting much drier air to move into Idaho and now into Utah and parts of far northeast Nevada, dropping relative humidity to below 10% in some areas, and continuing hot temperatures with valley temperatures above 100 degrees. This will increase the likelihood of holdovers due to the recent lightning. Otherwise, across the Great Basin, we'll see plenty of lightning again across the rest of eastern and southern Utah into much of Nevada, producing some areas of wetting rains. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen plenty of lightning activity, especially across Nevada and into southern eastern portions of Utah, which we'll likely see again today. We also saw areas of wetting rains and some areas of flash flooding, especially across the Sierra Front and into parts of central Nevada. Looking at the amount of precipitation over the last 7 days, it's been scattered across the Great Basin, which has pushed some areas, especially along the Sierra Front and parts of far northeast Nevada and the Arizona Strip, to above normal. However, again, the heavier precipitation has been more spotty. Looking at the Great Basin fire activity map, we've seen new fires develop across Utah and parts of southern and western Nevada and into the central Idaho mountains. However, fire activity has remained small, with minimal growth on our large fires. Looking at the water vapor satellite image, high pressure now expands across the Great Basin and is centered over Nevada. Under this area of high pressure is where we'll continue to see thunderstorm activity over Nevada and parts of southern and eastern Utah. However, a weak front brought some drier air across Idaho, Wyoming, into northern and central Utah. However, temperatures will still remain very hot. Therefore, dryness levels will remain low, and this will increase the potential for holdovers. As we look at the surface conditions, again, hot temperatures will continue with valley areas remaining above 100 degrees across the region, and this is about 10 to 15 degrees above normal. And again, the image on the right depicts those areas of thunderstorms, which will likely be producing rainfall and be slow moving. Therefore, flash flooding is again a possibility with these storms. Now looking at conditions Friday and Saturday, very minimal change is expected on Friday, with still areas of thunderstorms over much of Nevada and to southern Utah. And also you may see a few isolated cells develop over the central Idaho mountains, but still much of Idaho, western Wyoming, and northern and central Utah will remain dry, with temperatures above 100 degrees in the valleys and in the mid to upper 80s in the higher elevations. As we move into Saturday and this area of low pressure moves a little bit closer to the coast, it will start to push this ridge slightly northeast, and this will allow some moisture to start creeping back into far southwest and southern Idaho on Saturday, and also part of the central Utah mountains. Temperatures may decrease a few degrees as moisture continues to overspread the area, but still will remain well above normal. By Sunday into early next week, this low starts to get a little bit closer again, pushing the high further east, and this will allow moisture to overspread much of the Great Basin again, with thunderstorms in most areas with the exception of possibly the west central Idaho mountains, which still may remain dry. These thunderstorms, again, will be producing rainfall with higher humidity, therefore we'll likely see still light to moderate initial attack through the weekend. However, the threat for large fires is still on the lower side due to the deeper moisture. As we move into Monday and Tuesday, thunderstorms continue, especially over the northern two-thirds of the Great Basin. However, drier air will start moving into parts of southern Nevada and southwest Utah as we go into Tuesday, and by Wednesday may move further north and east. Therefore, we may see decreasing lightning activity as we get into the early to mid portion of next week, especially over the southern half of the Great Basin. This drier air, with also increasing southwesterly flow, may push further north and east as we move towards the end of next week. Now looking at two images of forecast precipitation amounts over the next week. Through Saturday, the heaviest rainfall is still expected along the Sierra Front and in the Sierra into parts of central Nevada and southwest Utah, with areas receiving over a third or half an inch in some of the heavier storms. However, as we look through next Thursday, over the next week, we'll likely see this moisture again overspread much of the area, with wetting rains across much of the Great Basin, with lighter amounts across Idaho into far southern Nevada. If we look at the current ERC conditions, they have been going down across Nevada and Utah due to this moisture, however have been increasing across Idaho and will continue to increase across Idaho over the next several days as dry and hot weather continues. Over the 8 to 14 day period, which takes us through the middle of July, we will likely see above normal temperatures across much of Idaho and possibly above normal precipitation over parts of southern and eastern Utah. However, now drier conditions will likely be emerging by mid-July with breezy southwest flow and temperatures just above normal across western areas. That concludes this briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us or you can follow us on Twitter. Thank you for listening.